Continuing with Exodus 12. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away yeast out of your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. In that in the first day there shall be to you a holy convocation, and in the seventh day a holy convocation. No kind of work shall be done in them except that which every man must eat. Only that may be done by you. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this same day I have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore, you shall observe this day throughout your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month of the month of the sorry, 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. There shall be no yeast found in your houses for 7 days. For whoever eats that which is leavened, that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is a foreigner or one who is born in the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations, you shall eat unleavened bread. Okay, so this is this is a lot of words to say the same thing twice, right? Like we've basically said, look, you're going to have a 7 day thing, and you're going to have this party for 7 days, and on the first day you're going to have a special day where you're not going to do any work, and on the 21st day or the last day of that 7 days you're not going to do any work except for making food for everybody to eat. Okay, but that food, there's no leaven in the thing, and it's going to be on the 14th day to this 21st day, and no leaven. Okay, and no foreigners can eat this. This is just you guys, and if you eat leaven, you're out. Like this is a lot of specific commands, right? For this part, and this was handwritten, right? So the fact that they repeat this, this is important for something, but why is leaven important? Let's hold on to that question for a minute, okay? Because it's coming. Okay, it's coming. All right. Ooh. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, draw out and take lambs according to your families and kill the Passover. You shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. None of you shall go out the door of his house until morning, for Yahweh will pass through to strike the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, Yahweh will pass over the door, and will not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to strike you. You shall observe this thing for an ordinance to you and to your sons forever. It shall happen when you have come into the land which Yahweh will give you, as he promised, that you shall keep this service. It will happen when your children ask you, what do you mean by this service? That you shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt and struck the Egyptians and spared our houses. Okay, so now we've gone from this very long section about how you're going to have this very specific event where you're not going to have yeast. Okay, and now we're going into, okay, but we're also doing Passover. This is important. And remember, we talked about last time the definition of Passover. That word has meanings everything from lame to dancing to protecting somehow. And here it definitely has that, right? Where we have this idea of the Yahweh will pass over your door, right? He will pass over your door and will not allow the destroyer to come into your house to strike you. Okay, so we have that. All right, and this is setting all that stuff up. Okay, so this destroyer will not be allowed to strike you. Okay, so this is striking the Egyptians. Okay, so carrying on then. All right. The people bowed their heads and worshipped. The children of Yahweh went and did so as Yahweh had commanded Moses and Aaron. So they did. At Midian, Yahweh struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat at his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. He called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, "Rise up, get out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go serve Yahweh as you have said. Take both your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also." Now, there's a bunch of stuff going on here. Okay, so first we have Yahweh is striking all the firstborn of the land of Egypt, but up here he's not going to permit the destroyer to come through. Okay, he's not going to allow the destroyer to come into your houses. All right, so which is it? Is it Yahweh or is it the destroyer? Or is Yahweh the destroyer, right? And there are people who read this and they're like, well, look, see, this is clearly an example where the evil forces in the world are Yahweh, right? And so there's this developing theology where Yahweh becomes, Yahweh who's doing all this horrible stuff. Ultimately, they're like, wait, we can't have that. So then they create this Satan figure, okay? That is a thing that people have said on the internet and probably elsewhere as well. And what is going on here is actually, as far as I understand, a reality that every culture has a narrative of their deity overcoming chaos and defeating chaos or subduing chaos, whether that's the Baal cycle or whatever else. And actually, we have that in Genesis as well, right? Where God is overcoming chaos. He's undoing the chaos that's there and making things right. He's shaping and filling and separating and all doing all that kind of stuff. But here we have this idea of like, okay, there's this destroyer out there, right? And can your God defeat it? In this case, the destroyer is doing exactly what God is asking it to do. Like the destroyer is not like, God's not like, man, I hope I can hold this back. Nope, the destroyer is doing exactly God's will. And Yahweh is saying, nope, not this door, not this door. Nope, this one has, nope, you can't come in here. Okay, so that's more the picture of this. But that is Yahweh striking them down because the Hebrew text here is very clear that Yahweh's in control. They're not worried like we are about like, well, doesn't this make God responsible or how did God is fully responsible here. He's taking complete responsibility. He's like, yeah, I'm doing this because I'm in charge. And actually, that's been the story this entire time, right? Like, God is in charge. It's not Pharaoh. Okay. And also, earlier, we struck down, or we attacked Pharaoh's father, his divine father, the son, and we blackened that out. And now we're going after Pharaoh's lineage, his firstborn, who's going. So we're getting rid of. We're showing Pharaoh that he is not in control, top or bottom, and he's stuck in the middle of this. And what's he going to do? And he finally capitulates. He finally is like, okay, yep, get out. And actually, you need to bless me too. Okay, like you go do what you need to do. But there's something else with this I think is so interesting, which is that it has this. He's striking down, the firstborn of Pharaoh. He's striking down the firstborn of the person, the captive who's in the dungeon. I don't know. I just keep thinking about certain movies with these scenes of like people chained up in the dungeon and then like, well, now they're dead. Okay, but also it says the firstborn of the livestock. Now this is chapter 12. If we go back to chapter 9, notice that it says that Yahweh did that thing the very next day and all the livestock of Egypt died, but not of Israel. And, students have different ideas. Like, okay, well, maybe the Egyptians stole stuff from the Israelites, or maybe they went and bought some more, right? Like those are all possibilities. Or the text here is just doing what text does, and it's being hyperbolic. Right. And so like the analogy that I really like from the commentaries is like, have you ever been to a sports game where it's like, oh man, we murdered them. We killed those guys. And then you look over and like the other team is still alive. What? Those lying, heathen, evil sports people saying they killed them and murdered them and destroyed them. And no, it's hyperbole. That's how we write. That's how we talk today, to this day, in our modern era of like, well, we shouldn't say violent things and stuff. We still talk this way when we're going through this. So, my opinion is that this is probably far more what's going on when we get to chapter 12, and there's still livestock to be killed. Okay, there's still firstborn of livestock that to take out because, it's all, but like, it's not all, because it's us who have this idea that the text has to be perfectly literal when it's clearly literature. This is literature, and it's doing that. And so there's a quote that I want to read to you that I think is just very important. The biblical Exodus account was never intended to function or to be understood as history in the present day sense of the word. Traditional history, with all its stress on objectivity, is a modern obsession. In the end, the Exodus saga is neither pure history nor pure literature, but an inseparable amalgam of both, closest in form to what we would call a docudrama. For the Israelites, the Exodus events were anchored in history, but at the same time rose above it. And that's going to become very important in a minute here. But also in this case where we have all the livestock, okay? Yeah, but that's not how this literature works, okay? It's fine. This is fine. If this is breaking your schema of, well, that it's literal, like this is the literal words of God, so they have to be 100% accurate for today's modern audiences, that's not how this was written. This was not who it was written to. And we need to understand the context and the culture that it is part of and what it's doing there. Just like locker room talk of like, we killed those guys, okay? And it doesn't in any way detract from what God is doing or from what he's saying. But people will say, oh, look, the Bible is full of contradictions. Here, look. Okay. Or maybe they did just buy some more cattle or whatever. That's okay. Sorry. Rolling on. I think that's just an important thought to cap on for a minute. Okay. All right. The Egyptians were urgent with the people to send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we are all dead men. They finally get it, right? Some of them have already been getting this. They've been catching on long before Pharaoh, but now Pharaoh's like, okay, fine, get out of here. And everybody else is like, yeah, let's get you out of here. The people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes on their shoulders. The children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they asked the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and clothing. Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians so that they let them have what they asked. They plundered the Egyptians. We set this up a long time ago. Oh, by the way, also Pharaoh summons. Oh, sorry. We were supposed to talk about that up here too. Okay, so we talked about that. But also earlier, Pharaoh had said, hey, look, if you see my face again, you're dead men. And Moses said, yeah, okay. And we talked about then that, like, is he being snarky? Like, what's going on? And the reason why there's concern or questions about this is because he's calling Moses and Aaron again. So is it that he sent people to talk? Or is it that he calls them and it's like, yeah, you didn't know what's going on, Pharaoh. You were out. Different interpretations of this. Not a lot of commentaries have even mentioned it, but like it's there. It's this thing that's out there. Okay, so I wanted to bring you up that too. Okay, all right. So they plundered the Egyptians. There they go. The children of Israel traveled from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot, who were men, in addition to children. And women, if you read other translations. A mixed multitude went up also with them, with flocks, herds, and even very much livestock. They bake unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought out of Egypt, for it wasn't leavened because they were thrust out of Egypt, and they couldn't wait, and they had not prepared any food for themselves. Now, the time that the children of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, to the day, all of Yahweh's armies went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be much observed to Yahweh for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be much observed by all the children of Israel throughout their generations. Okay, so 600,000 men, plus women and children, plus this mixed multitude, plus we have all of their flocks and herds. Okay, this number is completely absurd. Okay, this is like as large as the population or close to the population of Egypt, like at all during this period of time. This number is larger than like all of like the area that they're moving into, the promised land, all of that area, the entire area doesn't have this many people in it. If you calculate it all, it's like, close to 2 million people potentially, and their flocks and herds. And apparently if you made a line of them, it would stretch all the way from like the Red Sea or the reed seed all the way to Mount Sinai. Like the people would be arriving at the mountain when these people haven't even finished crossing, right? Like this number is so astronomically huge that it just doesn't make sense at all. And so there are a lot of people who are like, what's up with this, right? Like this is historically crazy. Okay, so there are, of course, a bunch of options. One option is that, well, the Bible says it, so it's true. Right? Like just whatever our modern understanding of things, like, no, this is just what it says, so this is true. Another option is that the word for 100,000 might just be unit. Like it could be translated just unit. So there were six, or 600 units instead of 600,000. Okay, men. So like 600 units. So like, how big is that? Like, is it 4? Is it 10? Is it 50? Like, so that's possible as an option. Like we just added 1,000 because that's a translation and that's how we did it, and it could be translated better elsewhere. Okay, in which case the number would be far smaller. Another option is that this was written a long time ago in a different cultural context where numbers are used differently than we use them today. Well, what in the world does that mean, right? Okay, so today, again, as we heard in the quote, we're about like what exactly happened, like objectivity, right? Like what was the actual count of people? Like count them, please, and then record that number for me because that's important. And then what's funny is that like even today, our journalists like to change numbers and make stuff up and all that kind of stuff. Like we're still doing it. So like even with modern cameras, like, oh man, like we position our cameras to get the angles that we want to either show that there were a billion people there or like no one there, depending on which side of whatever event is going on and how you want to position that. Like narrative spin is still a thing today with video cameras recording the actual events as they happen or using photos from a different event to try and make your point. Okay, sorry, tangent. But the point here is that these large numbers are all over ancient Near Eastern texts. This is not unique to the Bible. You go elsewhere, the text numbers are huge. And there's a lot of scholarship on this. And apparently there's a book coming out or just came out or something. I haven't read it, but it sounds really fascinating. And so like there's more to learn about this whole thing, but the reality is that this is normal, but it's abnormal to us. And so we read it and we're like, what really happened? How many people was it really? How did this actually happen? What's going on? This doesn't make any sense. And that's because we're obsessing about the wrong thing. Okay? If the third view, or even an amalgam of all three views or whatever, is true, then this number is saying something else about the group, about how awesome God is. It's talking about the success of something. It's not trying to tell us this is literally the number of people who walked out. Because it is true that if 2 million people milled around in the desert for 40 years, which we'll get to, right? We're getting there. Then surely we would have a whole lot more, like skeletons, bones, stuff from them out there, right? Like surely this would be something that archaeologists would have found, and they haven't. So this is where, again, people will look at this and be like, the Bible, and the answer is, well, yeah, that's not how we moderns do things. But that's because this isn't a modern book. Okay? It's not. So, again, the quote here. This is a modern obsession. The Exodus saga is not pure history nor pure literature. It's an inseparable amalgam of both. The Exodus events were anchored in history and at the same time rose above it. Okay, that is an important quote to go with this. Okay, and notice too that they were thrust out of Egypt, and so therefore they didn't have time to make food for themselves, and so that's why they didn't have leavened bread. And so this also is why we have the prohibition against leaven later, because it's to kind of remind you of this. And there's more. It's coming. Okay. So this is the night that Yahweh brought them out. Okay. Now, another point of contention that's here is this 430 years thing, okay? So at the end of 430 years, to the day, all of Yahweh's armies went out of the land of Egypt. Okay, but like if you're a astute Bible scholar, then you know that in Genesis it said that they're going to be afflicted for 400 years. That's not 430. But if you go to Galatians, then it does talk about the 430 years. Okay? And then if you go over to the NIV and you look at the footnote there, then the 400 years or 430 actually says in some translations, Egypt and Canaan. Canaan. Okay. So, not Canaan, Canaan. So, what is it? Is it 430? Is it 400? Well, this says 400. What's going on, huh? What was it really? What was going on? This is where we have another contradiction in the Bible, you guys. Especially because in this one, it makes it very explicit, like to the day, right? Like this is to the day. Like, okay. There is a lot written on this topic, and I will just continue to reiterate that these numbers are working differently, I think, than we are. Although even the Jewish scholars, like in the 400s, were writing about this, and they're going all over the place. So this is something that people have thought about a lot and written about a lot, and so it's out there. It's a thing that exists, and our modern obsession, I think, is distracting us from what's going on. But we can talk about that more if you want. All right, okay. Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron, "This is the ordinance of the Passover. No foreigner shall eat of it, but every man's servant who is bought for money, when you have circumcised him, then shall he eat of it. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat of it. It must be eaten in one house. You shall not carry any of the meat outside the house, nor break any of its bones. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. When a stranger lives as a foreigner with you and would like to keep the Passover of Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. He shall be as one who is born in the land, but no uncircumcised person shall eat it. One law shall be to him who is born at home and to the stranger who lives as a foreigner among you." All the children of Israel did so. As Yahweh commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. That same day, Yahweh brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. Okay, so cool. They're doing what they need to do. And all of these prohibitions about it needs to stay in the house, you need to not break its bones, which gets picked up by the New Testament authors. Okay, all of that is to keep it as part of the community. You don't take it out of the house, so you don't share it. You don't break it up so you can't share it. It is, you sit here, you eat it together in the community. This is part of that. That's what this is. Okay? Yahweh spoke to Moses saying, "Sanctify to me all the firstborn, whatever opens the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of animal, is mine." Okay, so we're now setting up a thing where it says, okay, because we are killing the firstborn in Egypt, now the firstborn in Israel is mine, the Lord is saying. This is to connect things for you. Don't worry. Moses said to the people, "Remember this day in which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of hand Yahweh brought you out of this place. No leavened bread shall be eaten. Today you go out in the month of Abib," or something like that. "It shall be, when Yahweh brings you into the land of the Canaanite and the Hittite and the Amorite and the Hivite and the Jebusite, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep this service in this month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and in the seventh day you shall be in the seventh day shall be a feast to Yahweh. Unleavened bread shall be eaten throughout the 7 days, and no leavened bread shall be seen with you. No yeast shall be seen with you within all your borders. You shall tell your son in that day, saying, It is because of that which Yahweh did for me when I came out of Egypt. It shall be a sign to you on your hand, and for a memorial between your eyes, that Yahweh's law be in your mouth. For with a strong hand Yahweh has brought you out from Egypt. You shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year." Okay, so we've got firstborns coming up. Okay. And then we've got this thing of like, it's going to be like a memorial to you, right? It's going to be between your eyes and like a sign on your hand. Okay. By the time that we get to Deuteronomy, okay, it's become a literal thing. Okay. "Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our God." This is the Shema. "Yahweh is one. You shall love the Lord, you shall love Yahweh your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. These words which I command you today shall be on your heart, And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them for a sign on your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. So now it's not just a, hey, this is like that for you, literally. And so there are Jews who do it, and they have a little box with a passage in it. What passage? Well, I haven't been able to verify this with everything, but according to one scholar that I listened to once, this is there. It shall be when Yahweh brings you into the land of the Canaanite, as he swore to you and your fathers, and will give it to you, that you shall set apart to Yahweh all that opens the womb, and every firstborn that comes from an animal which you have. The males shall be Yahweh's. Every firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb, and if you will not redeem it, then you shall break its neck, and you shall redeem all of the firstborn of man among your sons. It shall be when your son asks you in time to come, saying, what is this? That you shall tell him, by strength of hand, Yahweh brought us out of Egypt from the house of bondage. When Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, Yahweh killed the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of livestock. Therefore, I sacrifice to Yahweh all that opens the womb, being males, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. It shall be for a sign on your hand and for symbols between your eyes, for by the strength of hand, Yahweh brought us out of Egypt. Okay, so what is, I've heard that there's like 3 passages that are in the box that's on your forehead there, and one of them supposedly is this one about every firstborn donkey you shall redeem with a lamb, and if you will not redeem it, then you'll break its neck, and you shall redeem the firstborn man among your sons. That's apparently one of these passages that actually literally becomes a connection to you. Okay, I think that's interesting. Apparently, like donkey, unclean animal, but you're supposed to redeem that one even. But then you're actually just supposed to break its neck. Like I don't know. Have you ever seen a donkey head? Like I just that seems super intense. I don't know. That seems crazy to me. And all of this is to remind you of what God did and how stubborn Pharaoh was, and how that is part of this process. Right? It is to reveal to Pharaoh and everyone else that God is in charge. Okay, but I want to add one more note about this. If we go back up, this is something that you're going to keep as an ordinance in its season from year to year. The yeast is actually a byproduct of the barley harvest. And so when you get rid of it, and Jewish people, they actually like give it to their Gentile neighbors, and they're like, here, you hold this because I can't have this right now. I'll get back later. But at the time, you're getting rid of your yeast. You're throwing it all out, because this is the barley harvest season, and you're going to get more yeast from your barley. So it's a way also of annually reminding that God is going to provide for you, that it's going to be something where he is going to start afresh each year. I think that's pretty cool too.